All right, gentlemen. This is Jim. You can't see me, but we are going to do what we call Rando Calrissian. It's random questions that have been put together in advance. It's 1 to 100. We'll start with Matt. Pick a number between, these can be, let me preface it first. These can be anything from what do you think about the Jussie Smollett situation to what is your favorite pizza topping. Now I've highlighted the ones that are hot button topics. If you choose not, these are ones that could potentially cause division or they're charged questions. If you pick one that is highlighted, I will let you know in advance and we can skip it if you want.
Okay.
Yes? All right. Here we go. Matt, pick a number between 1 and 100.
49.
It's not a hot button. Here we go. How would you respond to the following statements? God helped me survive a traumatic event.
Prove it.
Trees are proof of God.
Prove it.
Atheists have faith also, and atheism is just another religion.
No, so you're admitting there's a problem with having a religion? Hey, that's a common response. As soon as you say, well, you're just another religion, essentially it's a response to a challenge that a religion is a bad thing. Well, you're a religion too, and okay, well, at least you're admitting that I'm right, that religion's a problem, but no, I'm actually not part of a religion.
Yeah, and I'm an epistivist, which means that I reject all beliefs based on faith, as any belief that requires faith should be rejected for that reason. But the bigger issue is that is, as he said, it's an admission that faith is a bad thing, and they know that. So it's the fallacy of false equivalence, where they want to say that that I'm just as bad as they are.
What would you say? I've been hearing lately a new type of apologetics, a new exegesis about the old style view of faith, like in line with Hebrews 11:1, meaning faith is things you cannot see, right? So the new apologetics, they try to circumvent that by saying, well, faith is just basically a synonym for
confidence.
Confidence.
Yeah, this is what Blake and I went through when we debated whether or not faith could be rational, because Hebrews 11:1 defines faith as faith is the evidence of things unseen, and so that makes faith essentially the justification for why you could believe something that was unseen. Under that definition of faith, then of course it's not rational. There's nothing that I couldn't justify based on that type of faith. But Blake defended a different one, which is faith just means confidence. And I'm like, okay, then let's just use the word confidence. That way we don't get confused when people say they have faith. Instead, they can just say, I have confidence, and now we don't have an argument.
But then when we get into that, when we use the definition of confidence, if faith is the as some dictionaries define it as, the confidence in the validity of certain claims or whatever, then I have it and they don't. Because whenever I express the challenge to, as I have many times, to prove evolution, for example, to your satisfaction within a couple dozen mutual exchanges, and the only rule is that you can't repeatedly ignore direct questions, or the whole thing fails by default. If you repeatedly ignore direct questions, that's it. I mean, that's the only way to fail that. Otherwise, the onus is entirely on me. Right? I can't win unless you admit that I win. But I never get past that, because when I ask the questions, because it's a Socratic inquiry, they can't deal with that. They know they can't answer the question. More importantly, they know why they can't answer the question, because it gives the whole thing up. So they usually flee from that challenge the same way that cockroaches scurry when you turn the light on. And so this is what gives me the impression that a lot of these people, certainly not all of them, but a lot of these people know, and some of them even admit, that what they believe they already know is not really true. I've had people tell me that, why does it have to be true before I believe it? Why do I have to verify? Why can't I just believe what I want to believe? Well, then you obviously don't care what the truth is, do you?
Matt mentioned Blake. He is one of the few that strike me. He comes off as genuinely sincere. That would be arguable, or would you agree?
Yeah, I love Blake. We have always been friendly. I've had him over to the house. We sat on the couch and had conversations. I think I exposed some flaws in his epistemology in one of those talks. But, granted, Blake and I have done like 5 or 6 debates at this point. I think we're both trying to avoid doing it again, or it looks like, the Christian Atheist road show where it just becomes shtick. And so, well, I think we're both looking for other opponents, but yeah, he's a genuinely good guy, smart guy. I'm getting ready to do a video on Bayes' theorem and how it is misapplied and has zero application in the question of whether or not there's a fucking God.
So I was gonna ask you, has he...
But yeah, but the problem is that
Do you have an opinion on that?
You betcha. I'm not going to do the whole or even part of the video here at this point. But the thing is, if you get nothing else out of this, Blake uses Bayes' theorem to conclude that God almost certainly exists, and Richard Carrier uses Bayes' theorem to conclude that Jesus almost certainly didn't exist. Now, we're running into conflicts there, and this is because some of these questions don't have priors, they're only as good as what numbers you put in there, and Bayes' theorem is a statistical analysis that is designed specifically for updated, new information. Let's adjust the priors based on new evidence, and that doesn't happen for the God question. So, there was a guy who emailed me recently who was arguing on behalf of Bayes for this God question, and I pointed out a bunch of flaws. I just got an email back from him yesterday. He's actually a professor who teaches Bayes' theorem, and he's like, yeah, I think you found some serious flaws in the application of Bayes' theorem to these sorts of questions. And I'm like, good.
Was this a theist? Was this
No, it was an atheist.
Okay. See, that's the problem that I have, is that my worst critic, probably on the planet, honestly, is him. Seriously.
Thanks.
I'm not even kidding. When people come up with legitimate complaints against things that I've said, it's usually him. And then I have to concede, well, yeah, you're right about this point. I need to correct that. But when I'm arguing with believers, I can prove conclusively that the thing that they just said is wrong, but you'll never get an admission.
It's very rare
that what they said is wrong. That just doesn't happen. Not in my experience. Maybe.
Yeah, one of my favorite ones, and this actually came up in a discussion a minute ago. Ray Comfort called into the Atheist Experience on a couple of occasions, but the one that I recall is I went down the path of slavery, as I often do, and Ray's response was, "I never said I believe everything in the Bible." And I don't know why that soundbite from Ray isn't, like on a keychain, so when he's out there preaching, people can just push that and go at it. Because now you've got to put Ray's now in a position where he has to explain what he does accept from the Bible, what he doesn't, and why for both of them.
Say, what's the mechanism for how he decides what to believe and what not to believe?
Still quiet inner voice. Basically, he trusts his gut because he's convinced that his gut is the Holy Spirit, and I'm convinced that his gut has, digestive bacteria and acid in it.
So for the last 2 or 3 months, I've been preparing to do a video against a guy named Grady McMurtry, who's a Dr.
That's
Grady
a good
McMurtry.
name.
Yeah, isn't that horrible? Put this second R in there just to fuck it all up. But so this guy he goes church to church to give lectures on geology, because that's the only place where he can get away with it. And he talks about how radiometric dating doesn't work because it's based on assumptions, and then never explains what the assumptions are. Right?
We assume that the physics we've observed is relatively uniform as it keeps producing the same fucking results.
So, just a few nights ago, now I've been preparing for the last couple of months, talking to people who do radiometric dating to try to I'm getting ready to do a video on Grady McMurtry. I can say if it was McMurdy, it'd be easy, but it's McMurtry. But anyway,
you haven't read enough westerns.
So I think I know the author you're talking about. But anyway, the Non Sequitur show put me on a hangout. They said, would you like to be on in 4 days from now with Grady McMurtry? And I'm like, oh, fuck yes. Right? So this guy claims to have been educated at Berkeley, and then tells me that he tells the audience that he used to be an evolutionist and he used to teach evolution. Right? And yeah, and so I bring up, okay, well, first of all, your degree listed is not from Berkeley. Your degree is from a religious institution in like Tennessee or something. Yeah, he could have been.
Like if I went to Berkeley and somebody there just completely schooled me, I could claim that I got educated at Berkeley, and that may be what happened.
I think what actually happened was that at one point he stopped to get gas in the city of Berkeley.
And they taught him how the gas pump works. And it comes from dead dinosaurs.
Yeah, so he says there's absolutely no evidence of evolution, and he challenges me to produce a single fact in support of evolution. And I said, well, first of all, we need to make sure that since you used to teach evolution, as you just claimed, then the most basic concept anybody could possibly understand about evolution would be genetic drift. If you don't understand genetic drift, you don't understand evolution. So first, I want you to explain to me genetic drift, and then I want you to explain what information do you discover that showed you that that was wrong. He refused to answer either question. But 30 minutes later, in the course of other questions, he eventually came around to that he had to abandon evolution theory because it didn't explain the laws of gravity.
What is,
Well, he's right.
to do with physics?
Which, of course, I guess we have to drop the germ theory of disease because that doesn't explain the laws of gravity
Teach you how to
either.
build a ham sandwich.
I mean, physics does have to do with everything else, but I mean, I don't know if evolution really has any bearing on physics. The other way around.
Yeah.
This is not live. We're recording, but they know we're recording right now, so we got some fan comments coming in. Epitivist?
Epistivist.
No, this is his profile photo is is a chimpanzee. So it's
I know that guy.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
He asked Matt, when do you plan on releasing your book?
Yeah, I'm not answering that.
Okay.
No, the thing is, a lot of things have happened in my life in the last year, including Pangburn, who was running the events, that's fallen apart and bankrupt, and it cost me a bunch of money, and then I'm getting divorced, and there's tons of stuff, and now I'm booking my own events, and I've got stuff going on. So yeah, so technically my birthday is at the end of the month, and I, at Christmas, set a goal of having the first draft done on my birthday. Yeah, that isn't happening at all. Maybe next birthday.
Yeah, but while he's bitching, I want everybody to notice that he is many years younger than me, and look at those eyes.
Aww.
As compared to mine.
Not too many years younger. I'll be 50 at the end of the month.
Aron, pick a number between 1 and 100.
Oh, 29.
29 is not a hot button.
No,
Oh.
I failed. I
actually,
failed. I should have
No,
asked for
I
the
don't
first
wanna
hot
hear
button.
this.
You want to hear this one?
I don't wanna hear this.
We asked, you both of you know Alex Jules. We already asked him
Absolutely,
this.
yes.
He gave a really good response. Do you want a different one since we've already asked this one, or you want it?
Alex Jules, I'll take his question.
Okay, explain rainbows.
That's God's promise that he won't forget that he always knew everything in advance when he realized he screwed up and wiped out everybody, that he needed to put all of the animals on a boat because he could have blinked them back into existence just like he did the first time, but he needed to come up with some convoluted plan so that he could destroy every fawn in North America because a handful of people in the Middle East had pissed him off for some reason because they made too much noise.
And then he changed the way light works. Because prior to that, refraction of light coming through condensate in the atmosphere did not produce rainbows.
Excellent.
Thank you, Alex.
Lonnie?
I think it's because God is gay.
Because God is
So how over the top does your show get? Because somebody got me a t-shirt once that I'll never wear because it's just too offensive.
Nothing is too offensive.
Can I have
The
it?
t-shirt says, I don't have it anymore.
Too offensive.
But the t-shirt says, Jesus loves me, but I make him wear a condom.
Okay, Matt, 1 to 100. No hot buttons yet.
71.
Okay, this is from the book Conversational Evangelism by Dr. Norman Geisler. So he's asked, oh wait, no it's not. I take that back. If you were given a PhD degree right now, but had no more knowledge of the subject of the degree besides what you have now, what degree would you want it to be?
Truthology. I'm sorry.
Why? That's such a bizarre question. Oh, I'm going to give you a PhD, but you don't know any more than you do now. So basically, you're going to credential me, furthering the myth that credentials are relevant.
They aren't.
They're
Well,
not.
to
They
some
show that
degree.
you did the work, but people go and there's people with PhDs in geology that are young Earth creationists, and they only got the doctorate so that they'd have the credentials. And it's
I
because
am
we rely on that.
I am the world's most famous taxonomist.
There are people that make real life decisions.
I would
based
agree
on
with that.
people's credentials.
Yeah, but I don't
As far
have
as
the
human
degree.
beings, we make decisions based on that. sometimes in life.
I think it's a horrible
Do you think
mistake.
it's a bad
So if
thing
you
to
were
do?
going to give me a PhD in something that I have no more knowledge in, I would want it to be a field where nobody would care that I had a PhD. So I'm going to say sex.
Okay.
They would have to come to you because you're the expert, right?
They would have to. They would have to come to me.
Yeah.
Good job.
All right, 100, 1 to 100.
Hot button.
The first hot button?
Oh,
Give me-
boy.
We'll start at the beginning?
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
It's on now, baby.
When would you consider using physical violence against a peacefully protesting neo-Nazi / white supremacist / white nationalist / white separatist?
Never.
What?
Ooh.
Slash Baptist.
Yeah, after he's already using it on me.
But that's not peaceful anymore.
He's peacefully protesting. When would you ever consider using violence against him for exercising his First Amendment right?
If he hasn't turned that against me, then I wouldn't be turning it against him.
if it's remaining peaceful and there's not like
It's a peaceful protest.
Yeah. Never.
Yeah.
Is that surprising that
Don't punch
I'm
Nazis.
surprised by your responses to that?
It's very surprising that anybody's surprised at my response to that, as I was raked over the coals for suggesting that it was not only anti-humanist, but strategically stupid to run around punching people for their speech. Because when Richard Spencer got punched and everybody celebrated and started this new round of let's go punch the Nazis,
hit with a bike.
my
He
res-
didn't get punched.
my response was pretty straightforward, and that is the smartest thing Spencer could have done would have been to pay somebody to punch him while he was being interviewed on TV so that he could make the points that he made. And if it's smart for him to do it strategically, it's stupid for us to do it for free.
Imagine
That's good.
imagine
That's
the
good.
commercial market value of martyrdom.
Yeah. You are, you know, when you take the actions that are the non-proportional or the disproportionate response, you lost.
Suffering for one's beliefs is traditionally
Matt-
considered romantic.
Matt,
If you have to resort to violence, you've lost the argument. That's the proof
Yeah.
that
Now,
you've
when they
lost the
stop
argument.
being peaceful, if this thing turns into a riot, or if they're actually, you know,
Inciting violence.
if they're beginning to attack people, as soon as it stops being peaceful, I'm not a pacifist douche nozzle. I'm all in favor of self-defense, defense of others, even defense of property to a reasonable extent. But if the question is, hey, there's some peaceful protesters who I think are just complete jackholes that I wish didn't exist, the answer is never. And the other thing is, I want them just free enough that they feel comfortable identifying as neo-Nazis and white supremacists, because we have a real problem with racial issues and other bigotry. And so if you make it so that now they're ashamed to say, yes, I'm a white nationalist, I'm a neo-Nazi, I'm whatever, how do you tell which cops are racist?
I had a guy talk to me. He wanted to have a conversation with me that unfortunately wasn't recorded. He said that he thought he had evidence that there were different human races, unlike what Darwin said. You know, because Darwin was the first, and then 15 years later, Franz Boas also said that there was only one race of humans that still survived. And we can show evidence of other human races in the last 100,000 years or so, but not that still exist today, by the various definitions that we tried to agree on. And so his argument was, among other things, I said, if your family, your white family, moves to the tropics, then after several generations, your children are going to be born darker. It's invariable. This is just part of adaptation. Right? I wouldn't even think that this qualifies as evolution. This is just adaptation to the environment. Right? Your children are going to be born darker after several generations. He said, no, not if you have a mind that makes you hide from the sunlight and stay indoors and protect yourself from the sun. And so your goal then is that after several generations you're still ill-adapted to your environment if you're living in the tropics. You're still the whole thing.
Well, no, you've changed your environment.
I think that would only be true is if the offspring that were had in your family died off who were lighter.
Well, I say, okay, you could also do the same thing if you...
UV radiation isn't going to change the offspring that you have.
I also said
if you're white, you're going to be white.
Yeah, I think it's
down
on
through
some
the
level they were both
generations.
wrong, but
on the same level, you could be nocturnal, right? It only come out at night, and
sort of
you
like
stay the
predation or
same way.
something like that? Like the
Well,
lightest skinned.
The thing is,
offspring
I was really obtuse. I very often give people too much credit, and I think that they're being sincere. And very obviously, in retrospect, this guy was arguing that the only importance was that he stay white. He knows what makes people white and versus what makes people dark, and he's trying to deny the very climate that makes people dark, and maintaining that somehow makes him superior.
I want to change the education system not only to include things like critical thinking and skepticism and comparative religions courses, but I think right alongside requiring kids to be vaccinated in order to attend public schools, they should also submit to a 23andMe test so they can find out they're not as fucking white as they thought they were. Although I took the test and I'm really like my wife's the only person I've met who's more white than me.
Okay, I took the 23andMe as well. I am exactly what I thought I was. British, Scandinavian, Northwestern European. I'm Blanco.
Blanco.